Hello, Straight Talk audience. This is AI Gonzalo Lira, and this is Straight Talk, Cyber Cafe Edition.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? Welcome to the Liberty Report with Professor Red Pill and Adam Maxwell. Today, we're discussing the summer of love, man, and Trump's peace deal in the Middle East with Israel and Iran and all the shenanigans that's going on recently. So it's going to be a fun-filled segment, and thanks, guys, for joining us. Remember to like and subscribe. Join the Telegram groups. Links are in the description. And if you can, join locals. Help support us because this takes a lot of time for research and a lot of time for, we got equipment and all kinds of expenses. StreamYard costs money. Editing costs money. Personnel costs money and all of this good stuff. So that'll really be helping us out. It's only $4 a month for my locals. What's your locals cost right now, Adam? Same price?
I haven't yet set it up, so it's free right now.
Oh, it's free. All right, yeah, so free. That's good. That's better than nothing. So Adams is free. Mine's $4. Rumble 3 gets you $3 off your first month. So go ahead and take it away there, Mr. Maxwell.
Sure. The 12-day war of 2025. A war that was launched by Israel and the United States, collectively the global American empire. So obviously they had great intelligence going in, and they were confident, if not certain even, of victory and the strategic necessity or advisability, the desire that this was a good idea because it was their idea. They're the ones who initiated the action, so surely they wouldn't have done it if they were going to lose. However, after just 12 days of conflict, Israel was on the verge of destruction. Now, that doesn't mean that all Israelis were killed, that all their houses were killed. It means strategically, defensively, they were finished. They were humiliated. Their air defense missiles were depleted. Their strategic sites have been destroyed to a huge extent. One of their greatest universities or research centers, the Weizmann Institute, that's been utterly demolished. Their most sensitive sites, everything destroyed. Not everything, right? But a lot of things have been utterly devastated. To the point that after 12 days, I think we can say confidently, Israel lost. Israel lost the 12-day war against Iran. It's not really unsurprising, but it begs the question, why on earth did they start it in the first place?
Yeah, it's a really, 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 really good question. I really truly believe that Trump had said that they had nothing to do with it at this point. I was kind of 50-50, but my analysis, my opinion based off of after the fact, I think Israel wanted to continue to expand its empire. It's a growing regional empire in the Middle East. It's obviously taking over Syria. They have control over Syria now, or control and influence. They have control over parts of Lebanon, I guess, with the United States through the United States proxy. They have some control over Lebanon. They're trying to take over the Gaza Strip and expel all the people, their refugees and whatnot. That's part of the expansionism. What other places exactly that they've been expanding into? Aren't there other countries that they're expanding or at least influenced in right now in the Middle East?
Well, the goal of Israel and United States as its master is regional hegemony because they exist in a position of existential insecurity. So the Israeli security doctrine is we need to be more powerful than all our neighbors combined. Which, how do you do that? Well, they have nukes. But they also have conventional capacity, as we've seen, and of course, they have the backing of the United States, and it's the United. So you talk about Israel, the Israeli Empire. I converge with you on this. I think it's the American Empire, which has under its imperial project, under its imperial jurisdiction, the state of Israel. And I think that obviously there was, when Israel was founded, there was, it wasn't as iron, their partnership. It's developed over time. Especially, I think, after Israel attacked America, the USS Liberty. I think after that point, they really started working together much more. So, anyway, you ask, where do Israel have their tentacles? And ultimately, you have to question, where does the United States have its tentacles? And it's all over Iran. It's all over the Middle East. It's, as you say, they have, if not proxies, puppets or vassals through US aid, etc., and military support. So the United States, of course, Saudi Arabia is a key ally. The Gulf states, Egypt is dependent a lot on US military and economic aid. Turkey, member of NATO, and they have a very vulnerable economy. Israel specifically, I think this war with Iran is kind of the culmination of at least a 25-year imperial project, maybe longer. One could say 50 years, going back to 1980 or even before, but Iranian Revolution, 1979. They said, we've got 7 big enemy countries in the region. Of course, Egypt signed a peace deal with Israel in 1978, the Camp David Accords, where Israel gave up the entire Sinai Peninsula land, a lot of land, for peace. So Egypt's out of the question, not because Egyptians love Israelis, but because it geostrategically makes sense. Turkey out of the question, not because Erdogan is a great man. He's not a very nice, loving, not a Zionist, but because it's just not in their interest to go to war with Israel. So what are the main enemy countries, of which Israel has been at constant war the past several decades? You've got in the south, Yemen and the Houthis. You've got Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, West Bank and Gaza, probably another, and then Iran. I wasn't counting on my fingers, the important thing. Right. So Iran was the head of the snake, the Hydra. And Israel has either destroyed or debilitated or devastated, attrited even the capabilities of 6 of the 7. And they said, all right, now is the best time that we have. It may not be ideal, but if we wait any longer, this is my belief, if we wait any longer, Iran will continue to get stronger, and we will not be we will be losing our position. So I think having attrited the Hezbollah, having destroyed to a large extent Hamas, having regime change in Syria, having destroyed the air defenses in Syria, as well attacked some in Iraq, perhaps, over this war. But they said now is the best chance we have to try our luck at attacking Iran. And I think they said, even if we don't win, this is the best chance we have to do it. So it was not just a gamble, but a risky gamble. And I think after 12 days, it has not paid off.
Yeah, I mean, it was a failure from the beginning, and that's why I said, like, I don't think U.S. was on board, or at least they probably had a hint, or at least there was some type of communication, because these are 2 strong allies, of course. But I think when rockets started flying, I think the Trump administration and Department of Defense was like, oof, do we really want to get involved in this? Obviously we got to do a response. They responded very quickly. They 72 hours. The way the doctrine works is 72 hours they have to respond to a conflict or disaster. They responded within 72. I mean, 72 hours they had planes removed from the region, from regional bases. They had just keep families, civilians, embassy workers. They were fleeing everybody out within 72 hours, and they got they got everything pretty much in staged and ready within 72. It was amazing, the logistics of the United States military, how quickly they got everything staged and ready to go. I mean, obviously they probably knew they had some inclination. There was some knowledge, but I guess they weren't expecting it to get as out of hand as it did. Of course, I talked about the United States response under Trump on the Straight Talk News segment that I made as it happened, because we were waiting for that over the weekend. You know, we were predicting that it would happen Friday night or Saturday night. Happened Saturday night. And they struck these 3 energy enrichment plants with the B-2 bombers they brought over. So we knew, I was saying, as soon as they brought those B-2 bombers over, I was like, there's almost a 99% certainty that there's going to be a strike in Iran, a U.S. response. Of course, what I was, you know, from my analysis, from my research and experts in the particular munitions they were using, the bunker buster, the high-tech bunker buster, and the B-2 technologies and all of this wonderful stuff, the experts were saying that it's not going to be able to do anything. It's not going to penetrate, and it's just a waste of time. And sure enough, those experts were spot on. And these are U.S. military experts. These are people that worked with they were colonels or military officers within the United States military, retired. Their analysis, they have their own podcast. I don't want to exactly say who it was, but I mean, you can obviously go search the internets and find out who's saying this stuff. But nonetheless, it wasn't effective. There wasn't as much damage as the Trump administration, or at least defense wants to say, or at least what they claim, rather. We know that fact now. What was it? 4 days since that? We're on Wednesday, so it was like 4 days since that. Since the strike. Then Iran responded with a basically rocket fire on Qatari airbase. And of course, what I said is that they're going to have fair warning. So obviously, the United States gave fair warning to the Iranians, and Iranians gave fair warning to the U.S. to Trump administration that, hey, we're going to be doing this at this time. Trump was like, we're going to be striking. That's what I believe happened with Trump, is I believe he let them know ahead of time, hey, we're going to be striking. We're not going to tell you when, but we are going to. So please don't target our B-2 bombers, because then it's going to be a big deal. So I really do think.
I agree. There was coordination. Another question is it just theater, as some people say, or is it just?
I think it's theater.
This is the right thing to have done. Coordinate, say, and say, look, we are going to strike your facilities. You and I both know it's not going to do anything. Make sure there's no Iranians in the area, because you have to remember, the B-2 bombers didn't kill a single Iranian, nor do we believe they've actually damaged the centrifuges. So it seems to me probable, or that it was coordinated and symbolic. They said, we're going to strike you. It cost like millions, I'm sure, just in the fuel, let alone the cost of the bomb. Don't strike our bombers. We're not going to do any real damage, but symbolically, this will suffice for us to announce we've won because of these bombs, ceasefire, end of the war, and it's the off-ramp. Because they need to have some kind of narrative device in order to invoke the off-ramp. And that's what I think this was. And this is why when Iran then responded, striking a US base in Qatar, which was already
it was deserted. They deserted that within 24 hours. Yeah, the Qatari airbase. It's actually the largest military base in the Middle East outside of Camp Doha, which is in Kuwait. That, I believe, that one was also deserted. They basically key personnel, civilians, family members, contractors were told to leave. I actually got an email, because I work in the Middle East. I got an email. I said, dude, they said you need to vacate. And I was like, dude, I'm in Georgia. I'm not even there. So they're like, okay, good. Just let you know. Yeah.
So I don't know if it was 6 or 14 or 12 rockets that were fired by Iran at the US base. I think half of them may have even been shot down, and half of them hit, or 3 of them hit, or something. Just symbolic. You hit us this many times, we hit you back. No casualties. Punch, off ramp. Because Israel were losing. As well, Iran, they took some serious damage. I hear thousands of Iranians died.
It was a stalemate. it was a stalemate at best.
Mm.
I think for both sides, what damage and what was
I don't think it was a stalemate. I think it looks like a total Iranian victory. Like you don't win by defense, you win by offense. Can you sustain the losses? How much damage can you inflict? Israel, yeah, they hit hard. Iran has clearly suffered, but Israel were on the brink of destruction. And again, as I said in the beginning, this doesn't mean that 1 million Israelis died. Apparently, not even 100 have died as the official numbers yet. Perhaps, probably, but we'll see. Instead, it's that Israel was, if the war went on another week, Israel would have been out of air defense missiles. Iran would have been able to just saturate and go. And also at that point, it's possible that the other regional allies may have gotten involved. If Israel is defenseless and Iran is winning and they can just go for it, you're going to need to have American escalation. And it's going to have to be World War III, which is why I think it was in everyone's interest to say, while it was contained to Israel and Iran, there is a viable off-ramp in the symbolic.
No.
Let's just stop it here before things get out of hand. So I do think that the war began with coordination. I do not believe that Israel launched this war without the imperial directive and permission and green light and coordination with Trump and the US administration. I do think, however, that Israel, as the kinetic spear, Iran hit Israel. America hasn't suffered any real losses other than just the equipment. The missiles and air defenses. I think that America was capable of, because of their distance, both physically, geographically, diplomatically, militarily, they were able to sit back and be reactive and see, okay, the war is not going well. It's going really badly. Rather than go in and escalate things and go to war with Iran, especially with, say, American populist serious opposition to the war, as well as just how badly it was going militarily, they said, let's quit. Let's put a stop to this because it's really not going well.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I think Israel bit off more than they could chew. They were expecting, Iran to kind of like sit down and like, oh, okay, we'll take it, blah, 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 just like all the rest of the countries that they basically did the same thing to. And Iran was like, yeah, no, we're not stepping down, bro. We've got military, we've got capabilities, and we can strike you, and we know how, and we have the ability to do so. Plus they have Chinese and American, or sorry, not Chinese and Russian backing. So if they needed more weapons or repletion of ammunition, anything like that, Russia and China was always there. And of course, I believe there were Russian and Chinese intelligence ships in the area as well, monitoring the situation.
Probably.
Yeah. They weren't involved. I mean, they didn't get involved at all. And I think that's why I mean, like I said, it was like, enjoy the magic show and enjoy the firework display afterwards, because basically it seems like, Trump's on the horn. He's talking to Putin and he's talking to Xi Jinping. He's like, hey dude, stay the hell out of this. Let them fight it out, and see what happens. And then if it gets out of hand, we'll come in and we'll kind of get stuff settled down. But America, obviously Trump came in and was like, okay, everything's done now. We're done. And then, obviously it's coordinated between these countries, these superpowers. I really do think it is what it is. It's WWE. It's just like, it's like like Trump had said, he's like, dude, it's just two kids beating the shit out of each other in the playground. You let them fight for a little bit.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, you literally just go in and you're like, hey, just fight it out and then just break them up. Okay, guys, you had your fun, that's it, done. That's basically what I came to the conclusion. But like during and then now after the analysis afterwards, Yeah, so we're syndicating to the Gonzalo Lira CRP archive group, our channel, and we're on Rumble. This will be on all the other channels as well as Adam's Liberty Rising group on YouTube. Like I said, thank you guys for joining us. And this is the Liberty Report with Professor Red Pill and Adam Maxwell. We meet every Wednesday about 9 o'clock Tbilisi time. And
8 o'clock
1 o'clock
Bulgarian
8 o'clock
time,
yeah,
7
Bulgarian
o'clock
time.
Central Europe.
Yeah, and then 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, it is what it is. It's been an interesting week, and like I said, we're doing these weekly podcasts, and it's getting very, very interesting week to week. Adam, okay, I guess I'll add him back to the stage. I guess Billy Watts is saying, "Who hurt you?" Okay, wonderful. I don't know what that's about. He's saying mega and then who hurt you. Okay. All right. Wonderful. Yeah. So, anyway, so Adam, so like, all right. So the conflict's over. Where do you think it goes from here? Like, where do you think's going on?
So again, I don't think this was Israel versus Iran. I think this was the global American empire, imperial hegemony against the Eurasian multipolar bloc. So let's take Iran and Israel, let's demote them and promote the primary ideologies or the strategic who's who. The Eurasian multipolar bloc has defeated American hegemony. That's what this war represents. That's what this war is. So where do we go from here? American hegemony is proven to be incapable of defeating multipolar Eurasian, the multipolar Eurasian bloc, the global South, the axis of Russia, China, Iran, India, Brazil. It means that American power will fracture and will never be as powerful. I think this signals the end of Pax Americana. The global American empire is losing in Ukraine. It's lost. It's a fight against Iran. I think, based on my understanding of military intelligence, I think that the war, the potential conflict concerning Taiwan is unwinnable for the global American empire, because Taiwan is China and it's in China, and just logistically, like Israel could not defeat Iran logistically, America and all its regional allies would be incapable of defeating China in China about Taiwan logistically. So I think this is the end of Pax Americana and the herald of the multipolar world, where offensive missiles, offensive weapons are dominating over defense, which means, some people have said Iran has focused a lot on offensive missiles, but Israel, they went in day one and they were able to destroy a lot of Iranian missile launchers, and they were able to have an air superiority over the airspace of Iran. The counter is, so what? So what? They lost. It doesn't matter that you're able to have a degree of defensibility if you don't win, if you're incapable of winning the offensive war. So Iran, they have so many missiles, so many missile launchers. Now, I understand that some of the missile launchers take some time to set up and put out. And so if your opponent has airspace superiority, perhaps you can stop that. But some of the launchers, they're much more mobile. They don't require this. We know Iran have thousands, if not tens of thousands, of ballistic missiles still in stockpile, completely unharmed. I don't know how many launches they have. I don't know their launch capability. But Iran has suffered damage. Israel has been devastated, has been destroyed, have lost strategically. So it doesn't
Yeah, it's not even that though, but the Israeli people have fled. I mean, they're leaving like they're leaving in droves. I mean, since they began the Gaza conflict, people have been leaving because the stability of the region and their economy is in shambles. And I honestly I told you guys before, um in the Gonzalo Lira legacy group, that basically this is Israel is doing this because their economy is in shambles. And what, like Gerald Salente often says, I'm going to use his quote on this: when all else fails, they take it to war. So Israel's like, well, their economy is starting to retract a little bit because they're in an ongoing conflict with Gaza that's obviously costing them money. It's costing people are leaving. People don't want to invest there because of the stability of the region. They lost a big contract, with that. They were trying to build a pipeline through Syria and I guess I'm losing you again. Oh, okay. They're trying to build a big pipeline through Turkey. That was originally what was going to be set up, and then that all ended because of the attack, and then the response and all of that. So that's done. That was going to go from Arabia all the way to Turkey to Europe. There's some speculation on that, and I gave some analysis on that as well. But I mean, the Israeli economy seems like it's done. I mean, there's nothing really going on there. And this is obviously a response from that. I was thinking maybe it was the American economy too could be also that, because I was like, the American economy is in recession too. A lot of the people that are probably watching this now could feel it. And that's partially the reason why Trump was like coming in quickly once they started to shut down the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. That was a very big deal, because that would affect Europe, that would even affect China, then that would affect the United States as well. So
Sure,
they were like, yeah,
it would
yeah, go
have
ahead.
caused an oil shock where oil
Right.
prices, because of the the Strait of Hormuz, I think 20% of all oil trade goes through there. And I think you said in the Gonzalo Lira Legacy Group that this represented or constituted 50% of Chinese oil imports. So if you shut down the Strait of Hormuz, the supply of oil is massively reduced, which means the price of oil goes up considerably. When Trump said ceasefire, the price of oil speculation went down quite considerably, because everyone was like, well, if the strait gets shut, it's going to go up to like $100 or more, and
Mhm.
it didn't happen. So it kind of normalized, and therefore had downward pressure on oil futures.
I mean,
So talk.
no, I'm just saying for my analysis on that, like I also described that in the Gonzalo Legacy group, that basically we're headed. I was predicting that we would head to a $30 barrel oil by the end of summer, by the end of summer of love, as we call it. Um, and the reason why is because the dry goods index has decreased, consumer spending has decreased on the global scale. Obviously Russia's in a wartime economy. Europe's in economic depression, or actually pretty much in economic depression at this point because of the self-sanctioning. The United States also is in serious recession. The Fed has not concluded or said, "Hey, we are in recession," but they are, because the average consumer is tapped out. We have a rising debt ceiling, not just in the federal debt ceiling, but you have rising consumer debt that's astronomical, student loan debt, credit card debt, all kinds of stuff going on. Housing, people, there's a lot of people in foreclosure right now in the United States because they just can't pay their mortgage. Because
It's
all
not
kinds of
it's
stuff's
not
going
all
on.
doom and gloom. McDonald's has started accepting EBT. So
That's
if you're unable,
awesome. Goislop. Continue.
so, so
uh,
how can the American economy be that bad? Yes, there are many Americans who are financing their groceries using
mhm.
Klarna and other apps. But you can buy Reese's Pieces at Walmart with your EBT, as well as even McDonald's now. So how can anyone say that the American economy is in the toilet?
It's been going down since for a while, dude. I mean, it is what it is. We covered this in this the Gonzalo Lira has covered this many times. He was he his predictions about dollar. He predicted the Middle East meltdown. I mean, a lot of the stuff that he talked about is coming to fruition, you know, and he was like, "Hey, go to Africa." And I mean, I understand what he's saying with going to Africa, because Africa is obviously an untapped resource of resources and different things, and it's the last continent on the planet to actually develop. So I mean, I understand what he means by that, but
It's
um,
I think the best chart, if you want to evaluate the health of an economy, the American economy, say, is I would look at the median real earnings of the country. So let's take Canada and the UK, for example. Since 2008, and until 2008, things were trending up. Things were getting better. 2008, the productivity and the real economic growth and health of the Canadian and UK economies since 2008 have been in the toilet. In America, if you go look at the chart, and Josh, I'm going to just post this in the
yeah, it's
private
fine.
chat in the StreamYard. You can see, and you go to the max, 10-year or max, you will see that the American economy was actually growing until Trump won, until
Oh, okay.
2020.
Yeah, I'll bring that up.
And 2020, it went down. And allegedly it's going up, but it kind of looks like it's stagnating, and we don't trust their statistics anyway. But at least in the long run, there's some truth to it. You can see that it's gone up and up and up till 2020, and then it's come down sharply. And then we all know the problem, like that there are many now structural problems from post 2020, especially because we don't have a real economy anymore. We have instead a financial economy, and it's not even a financial economy, it's a fake, distorted financial economy where the central bank is printing this and so the GDP is being distributed not to ordinary Americans, but instead to asset holders, to shareholders, especially in the military industrial complex, and to those who have, not those who have not the average American. So I don't know I don't really know I haven't looked into these statistics. I'm sure there's a lot one could critique, but just at a level, the American economy is in the toilet for the past 5 years. It's been declining, I think, the past 5 years, and these structural issues, especially rising consumer debt, has been eating away living standards, real living standards. I think that there's a phenomenal meme about the Great Depression, which was 1920s, 1929 onwards, America, so almost 100 years ago, where the average American says, the economy's in the toilet. I've lost my house. I've lost my vehicle. I can't afford, certain things. And then the average American today,
Hookers and blow?
I don't know, the average American today can't afford hookers and blow.
I'm kidding.
The average American today says, I never had any of those things to begin with. And if I did, it was all on debt, which now I cannot even afford the debt. So America's not in a good position. And so going to war right now, how can that be in the interest of Americans, even if it's in the interest of the global American empire and in the long run? It is readily apparent that any massive global economic shock like World War III would be entirely unsustainable for the average person, not just in America, but in Europe and all over the world. It's just economically not a good time for war. Modern war as well.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying is that's the reason why I think the Trump kind of ended this quickly and did the stage, the magic show and then the extravagant firework display. It's basically that Trump's got real problems in the West, in the Western economy, especially in America, like I said, with the economy. And he's only got 3.5 years left until his term's over, and then he's got to worry about midterms in a year. Getting ready for that in about less than a year. He's got to get ready for the midterms, for the congressional midterms. So, having a really bad economy and going through a major war that's causing economic turmoil due to, is what it is. He's got to be concerned with that. So this is one of those things where he came in, he was like, oof, he's like, I'll make a decision in 2 weeks. And I think he was like, yeah,
I think
I don't know
that's
if I want to get involved.
kayfabe. That's wrestling.
Yeah. It's WWE. Yeah. It's yeah.
Yeah. So, but again, I think it was pre-planned. Imperial, the strategic consent was imperial. It had US green lighting with strategic frameworks, but because the United States never actually committed to the direct action, and the kinetic initiative from day one was Israeli, because Washington held back, there was that distance, and that distance enabled them to wait and to see and then to go in. So while Israel bled, America waited. While Israel has lost billions, including critical infrastructure, critical industry and civilian infrastructure, the United States absorbed no kinetic blowback. They had no direct military damage, no economic retaliation, and no body bags. There was a disproportionate suffering by the Israelis, which I think there are two main hypotheses here. Either the Zionists are in control of the globalist American empire, and that's kind of Jeffrey Sachs, Nick Fuentes, even John Mearsheimer implicitly, or the alternative hypothesis is that the global American empire is in charge and it is a distributed oligarchy. It is a cathedral, not a synagogue, of which a central pillar, perhaps even the central pillar, but not the one ultimately in charge, is the Zionists or even Jewish people power. This disproportionate suffering by Israel suggests that they were either misled, overconfident, or knowingly sacrificed to test thresholds and responses. Either way, the empire has survived and retains flexibility. Israel does not.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I honestly, I'm the latter. I believe the latter. I believe that there are a lot of different groups that are in charge because it's business at the end of the day. It's about money, and these different groups, like I said, you just look at the United States Congress and look at special interest. I always refer to this movie with Eddie Murphy, The Distinguished Gentleman. It's probably one of the best movies I have ever seen talking about U.S. politics. There's Wag the Dog, also of Robert De Niro. But just, if you guys ever do, just go watch Eddie Murphy's Distinguished Gentleman. That is exactly how Washington works. That was 100% spot on. He goes to the luncheon. He's just elected. He gets through name recognition, and he meets the lobbyist, the lawyer, the law firm. And he's like, hey, you know what? He's like, hey, who are you for? Are you for tobacco? Or are you for this? And he's like, well, what do you prefer? He's like, let's say for tobacco. And then he's like telling him through all these different special interests, and he's like, yeah, they're all given money. It doesn't matter who you pick. And at the end of it, Eddie Murphy's like, well, how he's like, all this money and all these different special interests and stuff, like, how does anything get done in Washington? The lawyer's like, that's the beauty of it. It doesn't. It's all bullshit. That's the reality.
There was someone that said, what do you do here in Washington? And why can't, for example, Doge cut back spending? It's because what Washington does is spend money. This is one of the major problems with government. It's not their money, it's your money. It's stolen money. It's money that you are forced to forfeit, or else you're going to be kidnapped and locked in a cage. They have no incentive to cut back on spending. Quite the opposite. They have incentive to increase spending, increase their own power, their own responsibility, their own capacity to lobby and receive kickbacks and money. So if you look at the American Congress, do you know the largest special interest, donor lobbyist class? It's the military-industrial complex. Number two is probably Israel, the American-Israeli Political Action Committee. But it's the military-industrial complex. It's the primary one, and it's the most powerful one. So, yes, Zionist power is real, perhaps even central, but it does not override strategic calculation by the global American empire. If if this had been a Zionist-led war with Washington under total Jewish capture, per the monolithic hypothesis, then I believe that Israel would not have struck first. The United States would have done so, or at least immediately and with total force, or with Israel, and it didn't, which to me refutes the theory that Zion is the empire, but supports the thesis that Zion is a pillar, not the architect. Washington's calculus allows Israel to absorb the pain to serve its larger objectives. This makes Israel a forward deployed imperial asset, not the seat of empire. And actually, for the first time in my life, has validated the neocon talking point. Israel is our greatest ally. I've been saying that's a great talking point, but what do you actually mean? Well, Israel has suffered in this war, which, again, I don't believe is a gay war. It is an Israeli war, but a gay war. Israel has been the expendable kinetic spear, perhaps the sacrificial pawn, similar to Ukraine and Russia, although in slightly different situations. The empire has retained its reserve power, its narrative control, and its escalation options. Cathedral first, Zion second. And I think this is the critical distinction that, I listen to hours of intelligence analysis every day, dozens of hours a week. I don't hear this really well articulated by anyone, especially the Judge Knapp crowd, for example. It's mostly, this is mostly Brian Beletic has been very articulate about this. The academic agent has said it quite well. However, he's also I find that he's much more anti-Zionist than Brian Beletic, who's not a fan of Zionism either. I don't believe. This is just value-free, objective, elite theory, power analysis. So these are the insights you're not getting anywhere else, and so clearly and unapologetic, because we don't have any special interests here. We're not subordinate to any viewpoint, any sponsor. We're really looking at the truth and analysis here, and what is the interest of the parties involved, and then we can give our own opinion as to what we think is the right or wrong thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it is. Like I said, I'm neutral in like the Ukrainian and Russian conflict. I'm neutral. I was neutral in this one as well, somewhat, the Iranian-Israel conflict. Because, at the end of the day, we kind of, like, my analysis is I think they're bankers' wars. I think they're controlled chaos. That's what's going on. And, that's basically all it is. It's about selling weapons. It's over oil. It's over energy. It's over minerals. Because at the end of the day, like I said before, like, they're still selling U.S. products in Russia. They're on the shelves. Some have different names and different companies that they've contracted out, so it looks like it's a Russian company, but it's really American products being sold. And I'm sure in some way or capacity, Russia's selling oil indirectly to the United States. They already caught them doing that.
It was through India.
Through India, yeah. And
what they would do
now it's through Georgia. Now it's through Georgia, and then they
sell it to India. They would slap on an Indian logo. Yeah. Mark it up 10-20% and sell it back to Europe.
It is what it is, man. It's all fake and gay at the end of the day. I think all these wars, it's about money. They got to, there's a huge amount of like weapons that have been compiled, all these aging surplus weapons they need to destroy so they have the justification to build new ones. It is what it is. Think about it. Like Israel depleted, like you said, Israel depleted most of its air defense. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to rebuild it up again, So they're going to. It's more money, big money, military industrial complex. So
the important thing about the air defenses is they are in such high demand, and the West cannot, and perhaps anyone cannot produce them as quickly as offensive missiles. And this is what I said with Israel. Of course, they wanted ceasefire. Of course, they accepted it because they could not reconstitute their air defenses as quickly as it was being depleted. nor could Ukraine. And this is, one of the Iranian strategies. We talk about economic damage. It's an asymmetric cost distribution. If this was a true shared war, both parties would absorb equal geopolitical economic costs. Israel, it was costing, was it over $200 million a day, and that's just in cash. Yeah. The missiles, they only have certain numbers, and they were limited even in Ukraine. We've talked about this, I think, in the last podcast, that the United States went into Ukraine, went into Kyiv, and said, "Give us your air defense missiles," and they went, "What?" and say, "Oh, we need them for Israel." Like, fuck, we need them for Russia. Too bad. They took them out of Kiev, not just waiting from warehouses in Poland, out of Kiev into Israel to fight against Iran. And this is why it just naturally, a drone which costs thousands of dollars versus an air defense missile which costs perhaps, I think it's hundreds of thousands, 200,000 minimum. Right. Some of them could cost even low millions. And these are just, you cannot, but that's not against drones, but about ballistic missiles, which cost tens of thousands. It's completely asymmetric. You cannot, and this is, I mean, the implications here for the Trump Golden Dome ought to be clear. You cannot defend, you need mutual assured destruction. You need offensive capability. Now, yes, there is some strategic value in having defense capabilities. And in fact, Russia has showcased they now have direct energy weapons where they shoot a laser at the drone and it heats up and burns, sets on fire, burns to the ground. Now, we don't, there were the conspiracies that America had this, and this was they caused the Hawaii fire. I don't know anything about that. But we know now that Russia do have this weapon.
Right.
So why do America not?
Getting into this though, like with the nuclear bombs and about mutual assured destruction, the producer wrote me and he said closing the Strait of Hormuz has more impact on the world than a few nuclear bombs. What do you think on that? That's from the producer, actually.
Well, certainly in the short term, economically, it's a massive, because what you have to remember about, say, the price of oil is, first off, it affects everything, because it's the primary determinant of the cost of energy. But secondly, the cost of everything, of prices, it's not like, okay, there's 20% less oil, so oil prices are going to rise 20, maybe even 40%. The price is determined by the marginal unit, so the cost of the last one. If there is 20% less oil, 80% of the oil has to go around. The bidding of oil, because it's so inelastic, it's so needed, it's a staple, it's going to go, the inflationary pressure on oil is going to go through the roof. Oil could go up 50% in price, who knows? And that reverberates around the economy and it brings everything down. And that could have caused the great economic crisis that all classical economists have been predicting has been necessary and, building up since 2008. So perhaps, right, the problem with nuclear bombs is twofold. One, it could cause this economic crisis, World War III, as discussed. But secondly, once the nuclear bombs start flying in any conflict, it means that now there is no taboo for future conflicts, which means Russia has not launched a tactical nuke in Ukraine, nor do I believe they will, especially the comments by Putin. I think it was last week, 1 week Wednesday, where he said at St. Petersburg, Ukraine is Russian. It's part of the Russian world. We, technically we own all of Ukraine because we're one people. So I don't think that Russia would want to nuke their own people because it's basically a massive civil war within the Russian world. But if nukes are just a go, there's not been any nuclear weapons used in conflict since they were first used, 2 against the Japanese. If that taboo is uncapped, it means that any conflict now between nuclear powers is existential as well. everyone now would want to become a nuclear power. Everyone kind of wants to before, and indeed Iran might. You asked what are the implications of Iran winning this war. Maybe they become a nuclear weapon state now, because I think one of the takeaways is North Korea hasn't been attacked. We've been attacked. We didn't have a nuclear weapon. We were doing everything right in accordance with international law. Yeah, we were kind of pushing it with the 60% uranium enrichment, but we were allowed under international law to do that. Who's the United States to tell us what we can or can't do? Well, if you don't do what they say, they'll bomb you. And now Iran said, well, that's fine. We can win unless they use nukes. And they attacked us because we don't have nukes. So maybe we want to have produce some nuclear weapons. They're probably not going to use them. Yes, they're religious fanatics and zealots and Islamic and whatnot, but no one's used nukes yet. Again, if America did use the nuke, right, but they haven't done so since 1945, 80 years ago. So if America had nuked Iran and nuked their nuclear facilities, it would be a completely new paradigm where nukes are just acceptable and allowed to occur, and it makes the world a lot more dangerous, especially in the long run. But closing the Strait of Hormuz, the 1970s experienced economic crises, stagflation, and it was caused primarily by OPEC, especially the Arabs, sanctioning the West and refusing to export their oil. So we would see that 50 years later on another magnitude, I think.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like I said, people on Wall Street made a killing on this. So who knows if there was coordination? I know it is what it is, man. It just people made money, and people that made money that put in money in oil too. So that's another story altogether, and that's something that if influencers might want to look into, or at least people that deal with the economics and stuff. This is somewhat of an economic podcast, but for the most part, like I said, that's something to look into, is like who made money from this, because that's going to let you know, a little bit more of why this occurred in the first place and what was the point and all this. But we've kind of broken it down and gotten as far into it as with the information we have and the research we've done and analysis. That being said, anything else we need to cover leadership wise? Like Trump, but what would you say his leadership was on this? And we'll talk about leadership of Iran, Netanyahu, and Trump, and see, and what's your analysis?
I think it was pretty gay. GAE, Global American Empire, with Mark Rutte saying Trump is the Western daddy. It's like,
oh yeah.
Oh,
that's not good.
That's not a good look. The first thing to note is a lot of defense ministers in the West, especially Scandinavia, are women. It's just throwing that out there before we get into this. I think this was a failure of leadership. A failure of leadership in the West.
Oh, all the way around, I think, yeah.
All the way around. Iran as well. They fucked around by enriching uranium to 60%, giving the justification, right, to make right, to say we need to strike Iran because it's true that you don't need enriched uranium at 60% for any reason other than to be a nuclear threshold state.
Correct, yes.
But this is the thing. They were willing to negotiate on this. There were negotiations scheduled for Sunday, 15th of June in Oman. Israel struck the night of Friday, 13th of June. Why? They didn't want to negotiate. Why? Perfidy on behalf of Israel and the United States. So the Ayatollah failed in his leadership by encouraging, allowing, facilitating this policy of, look, and I understand why they did it. Under international law, they were allowed to do it. When Trump pulled out of the JCPOA, Iran said, okay, well, we're going to push the limits and go as far as we can under international law and no further. But it means that Iran are a political decision away from having a nuke in days. A gun nuke could be produced in 3 or 4 days, and more advanced nukes in a matter of months. And this is something that Netanyahu's been screaming about for decades, even when untrue, to the point that today, no, it's true, but Iran said we're not pursuing nukes. But so that was a failure. And then it was a failure of Netanyahu and Trump for doing this when they could have negotiated on Sunday, and probably the world would have been in a better place today than it is now. So why, if you have all the intelligence beforehand saying this is going to be a bad idea, you're probably going to lose, why bet it all on not just black or red, but green, do a risky gamble that is probably not going to work out? Because now, if you had a time machine 2 weeks ago and you show what's occurred to the Western leaders who initiated the war, Israel strike, do you think they would have acted in the same way? I don't think so.
Yeah, and that being said, I mean, that's the Liberty Report. Any closing remarks? We're coming on the hour, so.
The interesting thing is only the propaganda. Trump, we know they did not destroy Iranian's nuclear facilities. In fact, again, it's more dangerous today because they threw out the IEA, the International Agency for Atomic Energy, the inspectors, which they were right to do. They moved their uranium. We don't know where it is. There's reports they have secret uranium facility that we don't know where it is.
They got a lot of mountains. They can hide it anywhere. Yeah.
It's a lot more dangerous today than before because we now don't have oversight. They now don't want to negotiate. But Trump is able to say, we destroyed those sites, trust us, and it's fake news to say otherwise. Well, we know that Trump's lying here. The news is fake, but this is all about, there is narrative cover. Iran were not pursuing nuclear weapons, but because of their stupid actions, there was narrative cover to say they did. Israel did an aggressive, illegal strike against Iran, but because of the nukes, there was a narrative, this is preemptive. America got involved, but there was coordination, but they're able to say symbolically, and this is the narrative in Iran. But at the end of the day, Iran have their narratives. I think at the end of the day, Iran have won this war, clearly, strategically, and the West are not intelligent. They're fools.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't help when Tucker Carlson interviews Ted Cruz, and he doesn't know anything about Iran or anything at all, and he's like, "Well, I got a guy that'll tell me that," and it's like, yeah. I mean, it's just incompetent leadership round and round. The only conclusion I could say is that this is it's like WWE wrestling. It's about military industrial complex, selling weapons to Iran's enemies or the surrounding area. Just like Russia-Ukraine conflict is to sell weapons to NATO. I think it's all set up. It's controlled chaos, basically. There is some hatred. There is some issues.
There's truth to narratives.
Correct.
But narratives are above the truth.
Correct. And that's basically all I'm going to say on that. I mean, that's it. Like I said, that's the Liberty Report. Like and subscribe, share with people. Make comments, in the comment section, anything that we said, anything you guys have any questions, we'll bring it up in the next Liberty Report. Anything you guys want us to talk about that we didn't talk about here, or something we might have missed, or if you have any questions, write in the comments or go to the Liberty Rising group or the Consolidator Legacy group, and we have further discussions on that there. Subscribe, and go ahead. Like I said, join the T Club. It's $4 a month, but Rumble 3 gets you $3 off your first month, makes it $1 for the first month. You can try it out. I got a lot of stuff on there, a lot of analysis that's not on YouTube or any other platforms that we're on. That's exclusively for locals, as well as my books that I publish. And I'm a university lecturer, so university professor. So you're definitely going to get a I teach leadership studies. I teach other types of studies, business and whatnot. So you're getting a college level experience by joining the locals channel, and you're going to learn about leadership, business, and different things to help you in life and career. That being said, thank you for joining us, and that's the Liberty Report.